And we want it to be interesting, not boring. And today we are going to discuss new medium, the internet. This is the world that all of us live in, and we have very interesting speakers, people who create the internet, who make the internet attractive for us as users. And we will ask them questions, how they do it, why they do it, and how we can protect the new trends that appear on the internet and how we can make money on it. So I would like to introduce my co-moderator, Martin Roll. Martin owns a company called Martin Roll, and he's an expert having 25 years of experience, and he works with top companies on the list of top 100 programs, and he will help us to understand how we can reach the level of Forbes on the internet. And I will try to explain to you now why I would like to, we would want to make money on the internet. And Baker and McKenzie did a research on the market of intellectual property, and they identified a number of objects which do not belong and cannot be regulated under the existing legislation. So they are not registered in any way, and they mentioned the following objects. So let me have a look. I need to have a look. For instance, IP rights for the depiction of people, biometric data, sports emblems, and the most important thing is accounts and the content of social media accounts. So the conclusion of the survey was the following one. Today, technologies create a completely new world. And this new world is the world we live in, and we have to protect the world we live in. And I'm a little bit going further in our discussion because I had some preliminary discussions with some of the speakers, and they gave me an interesting idea. Do we really have to protect the world we live in? Do we have to protect technologies? Or how much afraid are we to live in the world of the Big Brother world? And I will give the floor now to Martin, who thinks that everything that we can find on the internet, a social networks account, this is a prologue, a preface for the creation of personalized brands. Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Eugenia.
Большое спасибо, Евгения, и большое спасибо,
Be here. Unfortunately, my Russian is quite rusty. It's non-existent, so it will be in English, but I wish I could have addressed you all in Russian. As you heard from Eugenia, I'm a brand consultant. I'm also a strategic management consultant, and I spent the last 25 years of my career working with brands. And once you work with brands, you're gonna ask yourself, what is it really that you stand for? So the notion of what are the functional aspects? Are you better? Are you faster? Do you know something that other people do not know? Do you have access to information that I cannot get unless I buy your brand? So there are a lot of kind of functional aspects when it comes to branding. And look at your own choices. It's very often based on something which is very functional. But at the same time, the reason why, I mean, look at your mobile phones here. How many of you, what phones do you have? Apple, how many have an Apple? Anyone with an Apple? Quite a few hands. Samsung? Huawei from China? Maybe a couple, okay, they're emerging. The reason why you buy the phone, why is that? Is that only because that phone is a better phone? I have an Apple hidden over there behind my jacket, right? Is that a better phone than your Samsung? Question mark. Who knows? Because that's what we as the audience decides. So it's not only the functional aspects of brand building, it's also the emotional aspects. And that is, I just like it. I simply just identify with the brand. I like it. Yeah, but you know whether that brand is better than the other brand? No. But I kind of just decided that it gives me a better feel. I feel better about myself. Some brands are very loud. Some brands are much more extrovert. Example, you wouldn't know the brand of my suit. Is that an Armani suit? Is that Dolce & Gabbana? Or is it just, you know, you're in fashion, I know, so you would know, right? Or is it just a tailor-made suit from Bangkok at a cheap price? And it happens to be tailor-made in Bangkok. It's a cheap suit. It doesn't matter because I also feel something about the brand. So if you take the brand context out of the corporate world, then I do, as you heard from Eugenia, a lot of Fortune 100 brands. I travel around the world. I was in Copenhagen yesterday. Today I'm in Russia. Very exciting to do that. But you can actually move that into the personal space. I have built a lot of CEO brands over the years. I have not created influencer brands, but I see all the mechanics about it, which are pretty much the same. Because when you build a CEO brand, when you build a brand of a leader, because what is an influencer? What is a blogger? We're going to get much more into that. That's someone that leads. It's a leader. It is someone that builds followership. Can you ask other people to follow you? No, you can't. You cannot ask to be loved. Think about your love and your partnership, your relationships. You cannot walk up to someone and say, please, would you love me? You can't. You meet someone, you get to know them, and eventually you will fall in love. You will build a bond with a person. That's exactly the same when it comes to influencers and I would say CEO brands. So you're going to think about two things when you build your influencer brand. First of all, you need to be authentic. And I think because the internet is so transparent, it is so fast, it is so real time, whereas in the old days we planned for a campaign. You go back 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it had a long cycle. There's no cycle today because the content that we push out in the digital space is instant and is online, and you could almost build the notion that everyone in the world have seen it once you post it. That's not quite true. So what are the intricacies for that? Because how do you keep it up? I think there is an element that I'm sure we're going to get into that in the panel here, that you want to make sure that you somehow build a little more the legacy into your influencer brand. And how do you build a legacy? Again, you cannot ask to be loved. You cannot ask people to enjoy or value the legacy that you have. And what is a legacy? The legacy is an old Russian vodka brand that has legacy. Aeroflot has legacy. Apple has legacy. Many brands have legacy. Hermes from France with a very famous Birkin bag has a lot of legacy as well. How do you build legacy? You build legacy because you build up content over time. That's no different to an influencer brand. Huawei does the same thing. Apple does the same thing. They build content. The only challenge when you're an influencer and you work in social media is you need to have much more content because it is consumed in a completely different way. So one thing you're going to think about are the channels. Are you going to be channel agnostic? We're sure we're going to talk today about platforms, because platforms, are you kind of owned by a platform? Who manages the platforms? Whether that's a YouTube or whatever it is. I read yesterday, I'm not a gamer myself, I'm too late for that, but there's a very Swedish gamer, he supposedly merged out of YouTube. He completely dismissed YouTube and went to a very specified gamer channel, which is not very big. He has millions of followers. So he said to YouTube, I'm not going to be on that platform. I'm going to go with a much, much smaller one. He made a lot of fuss about it in the hope that that new channel will be much better. Why was that? Because YouTube takes half the revenues. The new channel takes a cut, and that's it. So it's a completely different exchange. So I think in order to get that influencer brand going, first of all, yes, you need to be authentic. You need to differentiate, but you also need to think about frequency. You need to think about that perception, because you're going to raise pretty quickly to legacy. And I know when it comes to influencers and bloggers, it's not so much what you believed an hour ago, what you believed yesterday, what you believed last week. We are much more instant and we are moving forward. Many brands are looking backwards. Buy me because I'm Louis Vuitton, I'm a mess, because I did something in the past. It's very, very different in the digital world because it's much more forward. So in order to get that up and running, I think we have the notion of speed, we have the notion of real time, but at the same time, we also have the notion of protection. Because as we're going to discuss today, a lot of people can eat your lunch. First of all, they can take your revenues away, because who owns your brand in the end? Your brand is out there, it's public. Two, what channel are you going to be on? Whether that's a YouTube, and there are hundreds of different ways of distributing that, that's an entire discussion in itself. And then it's a notion of innovation. And we know that brands, great brands are innovating, mobile phones are innovating, Apple has to innovate, the Chinese are innovating to the teeth. But how are you as an influencer, as a blogger, as a personality, as a leader in the digital space? How are you going to move yourself forward? So I think you can use all the elements of the traditional toolbox, but at the same time, you're going to add some elements which are much more brutal, I would say. The native younger generations, and I'm sure we have them represented here today because you're living it. It is a much swifter, it's a much faster, it's a much more 24/7 game. But one of the questions is, how are you going to make sure that you build that, in the end, that storytelling that you want your brand to become? And that storytelling is not only created by yourself. It was much easier to do storytelling 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It is much more complicated today because we have so many stakeholders, and an influencer and blogger, a personality in the digital space. It's not a one-way street anymore because we're going to engage with the audiences. Everyone has an opinion, and that opinion is online, it's virtual, it's real-time. So that story that I want to create, because I'm a specialist in food, I'm an expert in media, I know about aviation, I'm a fashion specialist, it doesn't matter what you are, you're going to be ahead of the game all the time. So there's a notion of fast, but there's also a notion of slow, which is a concept that I've kind of broadened out because I think we will come maybe to a point in just a few years where things are going to slow a little down. Because from a social point of view, from a tribe point of view, we're all part of tribes. We belong to a lot of different tribes because that's what we do as human animals. We always belong to different tribes. How much can we cope with all these different tribes that we are looking at? And I think some of those brands moving forward, look at the real brand world, not the digital brand world. Some of them are actually slowing down. Why? Simply to digest the story, digest the content, and to make sure the story gets kind of back on track. So much about personal branding. We'll get much more into it, but just to give you a bit of a notion where, from my point of view, and I'm much more of a corporate strategist that you can hear, but I have worked with a lot of CEOs and a lot of leaders that today cannot hide in an organization. Influencers, bloggers are not hiding. They love to be out there. A lot of you are out there, right? But sometimes CEOs from big corporates, leaders, they do not like to get out in the public space. And I'm helping them to get out there, to get a little more confident in front of an audience, and also build their personal brand. So much about branding. Virgin, you get the mic?
Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed. And since we started speaking about brands and why brands exist, I want to ask Evgeny, a creative director of Divik company and video blogger, why do you do it? And how did you become a blogger? So why did you go on the net, to the internet, and why did you start creating a certain space around you on the net? What was the ultimate goal? So thank you very much. First of all, I'm a creative director. So I worked with other bloggers and each blogger has its own goal and objective why they decide to be public, to go public. And of course, as for me, YouTube and new media have always attracted me, and this is a completely new environment, having its own formats, working according to its own rules and laws. And You know, earlier on, people made their careers at enterprises, working in their offices. But nowadays, a charismatic person, a real personality, can become a real leader on the net, uniting people around himself or herself in this new, absolutely new medium. So my company creates blogs, and it's a business. And we prepare different shows, and we work on a number of really creative projects centered and focused on other bloggers, people similar to us, and we are in advertising, and there are many, many different goals and objectives. We speak a new language, and we form a new environment, and we run a new type of business. Then I want to specify my question. So you have gained years of experience working with bloggers. Why they become bloggers? Do they want to be famous? Do they want to be heard? Or is it business for business sake? Well, it depends. It depends, and each blogger is different from another blogger, and I cannot group them or offer you a typology of bloggers. Some people want to sell their face. They like how they look, and luckily YouTube, if we speak about YouTube, is a highly competitive environment. And if a blogger goes to or produces a product belonging to one particular format, then he faces competitors, rivals, and this is a highly competitive market. And if a blogger has nothing to share, nothing to tell, and this is just being a blogger for showing your own face, then this product doesn't survive long, doesn't live long. Other bloggers become bloggers to have some revenue, to earn some money, and others to share ideas. And I want to address my question to a YouTube blogger, Artem Shalimov. Same question to you, Artem. So why did you become a blogger, a video blogger, a vblogger? So what did you want to achieve? Sorry, I cannot hear the speaker because the speaker doesn't speak to the microphone.
Ну и основная моя деятельность это, конечно, каналы Муз-ТВ и YouTube. Но время меняется, время идет, и нужно идти в ногу со временем. Поэтому захотелось сделать какое-то свое параллельное шоу на YouTube. Мне так, наверное, слышно. Захотелось сделать...
So I wanted to have my own show on YouTube, and I wanted to reach a wider audience, because nowadays, especially a media person, if we start speaking about media, of course, media people are judged by the number of subscribers, the number of followers, and we can speak about other platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. So each platform is used for sharing our points of view, our world outlook, our ideas with a wide audience. And some bloggers do it to share their opinions. Others use it simply for making money.
Хорошо. А вы когда-нибудь сталкивались со случаями, когда создаваемое вами кто-то, ну, по вашим ощущениям,
So, have you ever been in a situation when your content has been stolen or your ideas have been stolen? No microphone again. Yes, sure. I've been in such unpleasant situations when the content that I was the author of was stolen. But I don't think that this is a real problem for me. I cannot say that some of my intellectual property objects have been stolen from me, because there are so many vlogs. And for instance, I myself, I looked into the problem of banking. And all these ideas, they are sort of lying on the surface. surface. They are a low-lying fruit, and whoever grabs it first uses it. And there's a very thin barrier between stealing and just having your own idea. For instance, I myself played a practical joke on one of our popular pop performers, pop singers, Philip Kirkorov, and earlier on some other blogger did the same. So does it mean that if I was the second person to play a practical joke, does it mean I stole the idea from him? No, just the internet and tools and a toolbox is so varied, and I don't think that we steal ideas from each other. So we just share ideas and use it. And maybe we do it in a better way. Now I want to ask Mikhail Orlov, Karamba TV, representing Karamba TV, one of the creators of Karamba TV company. What is your attitude to parodies? Parodies, especially the ones that we can see on, say, YouTube. Do we have to protect our IP rights or not?
Well, I can use this microphone. It's absolutely okay. So just, when we were creating Karamba TV, we did not think and did not speak about piracy and everything that we are discussing here. Our first project was plus 100, 500, and we launched the first edition and the first episode, and it's everywhere in every TV channel. And we were, just taken aback. Well, what do we do with it? Are we supposed to do with it? Because everybody steals from us. So and we started thinking what we can do. So, and we just decided to do the simple thing. We put the logo Karamba TV, and we made the introduction Karamba TV presents. So after a month, we had 50,000 visitors. So that's the simple thing to protect yourself, to stop the piracy. Well, 100 million or thousands of millions of viewings that work only for you. Yeah, so just that's very simple thing. My memory can fail me, but I think that after 3 months we had 150,000 unique visitors a day on our site. So I'm not a very good manager, but 150,000 unique visitors every day, that's a result, I think. It's just because you brand yourself, you brand your YouTube content, and everybody has seen it. And, pirates actually helped us a lot. Yeah, so the question is, or just the issue is, when you are being copied, so just you have to think about your copyright. So if you are copied, it means that it's good. Why? Why not? Because your content is great, because people like your content, but you have to understand how to, just cooperate with your content and how to communicate your content to the audience. Just, if you don't want to go to my site, if you don't want to visit my site, just go to social networks, networking sites, and you will see everything there. Just we don't stop it. Just after several years, we developed a particular strategy, very simple strategy. We to take any platform we can, and we develop our format. Our format works well, so then we develop ourselves. Then we see what kind of content works better, and we do simple watermark. And it worked really well. I teach in several institutions in Moscow School of Cinematography, and we do some cinematography course. That was a kind of indirect advertisement. Yeah, so, and watermark is everywhere. Yeah, why cannot you do any action so that it can be interesting to anyone? It can be native and interesting and can be motivating to everyone. So I lost my thought. everybody who participated in the project, who worked out the project, so they contributed to the common thing. We can use pirates, we can use people who want to cooperate with us to derive some particular result. And if we develop some certain economy, like in 2011 when we started it, we didn't used to have it. But when we came to the first agency, and we said, just look how great we are. Look, we have got 1 million viewers. The agency told us, are you crazy? You will shut down in half a year because internet is not about something serious. So just, well. But then, after the project 100, 500, our project will get 1 million of subscribers and followers. Then, yeah, and then I will be proud of myself. But that's a different story. But then, that time, video blogging was not just the area to believe in. Yeah. So just and. Well, it was not the place to develop. It was not something that was promising, and nobody understood how you can make money on that. I will take you one funny story. One of our episodes, and Mike, our frontman, our showman, puts on a Nike T-shirt, and after a day, half or a city in Moscow was wearing Nike T-shirts, the same T-shirt. Yeah, bloggers define the reality for many ordinary people, because where else can you see how cool people live, or how I will give you. Yeah, I can stop here. No, everybody likes it. Another funny story. You have children. Yeah, so you watched children's YouTube. And you saw Mr. Cat and Mr. Marks in children's YouTube. That's great. Well, they have several million viewings. Yeah, every edition. But we were really excited about that how children can watch so much. Like Mr. Max plays with a new toy. Yeah, so but children watch it several times on a row. Yeah, so and we try to understand how it works. Scientists, researchers try to understand it. So the sensations of a child who plays with a virtual toy are almost the same, as if the child played with the toy himself. Yeah, so and a person. And the same works with our blogs, and the same works with our project. Like a person from some remote city, like Penza, can watch your blog and have the same sensations as a blogger has. Yeah, and it can be comparable to what our children experience when they watch children's content and children's YouTube. Think of it. I can add a couple of words when I get back to the copyright. We understand that our colleagues from Karamba, whether they wish it or not, contributed a lot into the development of video content in Russia. And let's be honest, when we think about the copyright, the format existed in the Western world, and the format is based. The format existed in the Western world, and the format had existed before you decided to talk about it, and it existed on stealing somebody's work and modifying it so that you can show it at a different angle. From a different angle. But I'm not sure that it's right. I think it is right, and I can even comment on that. So on the one hand, it doesn't look very right. On the other hand, just colleagues, were at the beginnings of influence marketing. Where there were so many regulations, and if it were not for you, we would still live in the world of regulations, and we couldn't do anything else except following the rules. But actually, we have already identified that something modified is not stealing. The issue is that, well, just if the person whose content is used doesn't see it as the well, critical review or just review, then he can claim that it's the theft. Yeah, so just then he can claim that, well, it can bring you to some other consequences. Oh, I can tell you so many stories. Well, I will give the floor to the commercial director of InRisk company who protects the authorized content. That's cool. So, and we will see.
Good afternoon, Mikhail. Can I be seated, if you don't mind? So you're speaking about a format when your content is not costly. You spend 1 ruble of money, and when you started, you did not invest much into your project, and then you produce good content, and then you place this content on the net, and you earned some money which you can invest into advertising. Your revenue is, metaphorically speaking, 10 rubles. And I'm not speaking about figures. Let's take another company, HBO company. So I can see this company, and this is one, you know, this Stark representative of the Stark family takes a sword, and we can read Karamba TV on this on his sword. So this company invested 15 million US dollars for the production of 1 episode. And when we speak about low costs for the for producing some kind of a content, it's one thing. And when you invest a lot of money, when you hire expensive script writers, and you have to earn much more money to be reinvested and to promote yourself as a brand. But when you don't invest a lot of money, and when you work on a quite limited market, when people are not children, they cannot spend a lot of money, a lot of time watching the same episode, or watch one and the same episode a couple of times. It's a different story. It's a completely different story. But if you hire an expensive script writer, then you show your interest, not only in advertising, of your company, but you are interested in returning your having some return on your investment, and you start working in another system of monetization, completely different from where you are. And when we speak about the IP protection rights, we can sort of assess all the vlogs and their types. We can say that they need more investment when vlogger starts. The entry fee is, so to say, much higher. An open license is, of course, very cool, but let us be frank with each other, and let us look 2 or 3 years ahead. When you start producing expensive, high-quality content, you will inevitably come to the need to protect it, to protect your intellectual property rights. But your audience have already got used to the idea of having it for free or for a minimum fee. So what will you do in 2 or 3 years from now? What is your business model? Open license, is that your business model? Are you serious? So let's, you are opinion makers, and maybe it makes sense to start speaking about another type of corporate culture. For instance, the need to protect intellectual property. Why don't you start working with vloggers, young vloggers, and teach them another model of having this business, of being in this business? Well, you know, I have a vlog on this topic, how to work with the youth, talented youth, and how to protect intellectual property rights. I inferred 5 different questions from your contribution. I don't know which question decision I should take first. Should I focus first on the intellectual property rights or some other issue? So Karamba TV. Karamba TV was sold to STS Media. I'm not a shareholder of this company any longer. I have another company, Michael Hopp. This company is a completely different story, and it lives its own life. This is an LTD company, and now I produce TV programs for GS for 100 GS 100 500 and 150, and there have been lots of developments in my professional career lately. And of course, I understand the changes in this market, and bigger companies, they want to protect the intellectual property rights. DMCA, I am not sure I remember the name of the system, but there is a system of intellectual right protection of video content, and there is an agreement that has been borrowed by Russian companies from American companies. I am not sure that I remember the name of this agreement correctly, but if a Russian company all of a sudden decides that whatever project or whatever blogger violates their intellectual property rights, they can actually complain and the channel will be closed. And there was at least one case. There was one example, and it was years ago. When we started, we were bloggers, and we just felt wings behind our back, and we felt wind blowing into our sails, and we did not think much about intellectual rights protection. And there is a belief that if you there is a belief, everybody knows it, that if you use only 10 seconds of airtime for say, advertising, then you will not be punished or fined for that. And at one point, when we were completely unaware of the existing legislation, IP legislation, we were sued. And there were at least 40 claims. So we did not realize that we will be taken to court for using, say, a piece of music. And there were 40 claims during 1 year when we started. And then, so we were asked, do you want to be always just, or do you want to make money? So our business model at that moment was the following one. We wanted, of course, to make money, and we did not realize that you know that for each illegal use of any tune, the fine is 200,000, and multiply this sum by the number of claims. And YouTube, if you take YouTube, 5 million views, makes it possible to get a revenue of 100,000, and this is not enough. And you can see, you can compare the figures, the revenue that you get, and the fines that you and the sums of money that you can be fined. So there is a need to protect intellectual property rights, and bloggers have to be aware of it. They can be fined. They have to meet the strict legislation. And when we started Karamba TV, we employed a person and who was simply wonderful, who said that you can sell your own content at a much higher price, and he helped us to generate good money. Of course, you know that we have to be just and honest. You cannot cover your expenditures only by advertising. We can make money by integrating, but integrated content contracts. And in 2019, the influence markets in Russia will be from 4 to 8 billion rubles, and at the end of 2014, we were one of the biggest companies. We earned almost 110 million rubles, and this was a lot of money, because when we started this company, we had a very big idea what how this company should work, and I didn't have any formal education, and I thought that, well, we can I didn't understand how I can make money and cover my expenditures, and how I could have a return on my investment. And then we started earning money by on advertising. But then we understood that this is not enough. This is simply not enough. And integration is key. Integration is key. Are you approaching the end of your story or not? Yes. This was the end of my story. Very abrupt end.
So, in fact, the conclusion is you support piracy. Thank you. So just because you help me earn more and become wealthier. But yeah, just what is piracy? If you think about our project 100-500, it's not the video blogging. And if we think about our project, that's a ready-made quality format. So it's like, well, the Bible for the writers, for the authors who are to create some scripts. So just if you want to have some new influences, some new air, just, well, we've got it. We wrote it, and it took only 14 pages. 14 pages of instructions about what works and which videos you have to select, and what humoristic sketches you have to select to make money. So that's the format which can be patented. But every time when I think about patenting something, I recall all the stories with other people who decided to patent their inventions. Then just, well, the story is about that copyright is not protected in Russia. But, well, just at the same time, we know about the television market in Cannes or in Europe, where you can register the copyright on some format. In our country, well, just what is to do is to write the format, to send it to yourself by mail. Yeah, so then when you come to the court, probably this paper that you send to yourself is going to work as an evidence. But as soon as you change it 30%, then it's not the same format, and you can use it any other way. So just I can take my own project. Well, I can make some social videos, and then so just it's not going to be my format, not mine, not Max's, but something different. So just does it mean that we don't have to protect, or we need some new mechanisms? Unfortunately, within the framework of Russian legislation, we do not have any mechanism to protect the format. If you're a video blogger of a major company, and well, just you can make huge money, and you can employ the huge company or the huge team of lawyers. So just you cannot protect yourself. Only well, just if you're an ordinary person, you cannot protect yourself. Well, so can I make well, can I have a digression and talk a little bit to the topic which we started discussing, that was touched by Grigory. Well, let's address Alexei Payevsky, the redactor of, chief editor of the portal Neuro Novosti, sorry, scientific journalist. Let's ask him about all these issues. So first, I became the journalist, and I well, wrote an advertisement, and I was accepted to work, and I created the Department of Research in Federal Mass Media. Oh, I just came for the interview, and I didn't know where I was going. But then after that, I was accepted, and then after that, I met a partner, my former partner, Anya Horosha, and we started with a blog. Yeah, just it started with a blog because the person needed to write something just, well, it kind of student work, student project. Yeah, so here I feel to be a kind of a clown from a circus, and at the same time the old, just old timer. Yeah, we are two here. Oh no, we are three here. You are three here. Yeah. And so our niche is very limited. Our area is very limited. But at the same time, it's very quality, high quality audience. And we can see some really surprising things. We never tried to monetize what we were doing, to capitalize on what we were doing. So we had a team of 10, 11 volunteers, and actually we were not thinking about making money. We needed some money to cover some basic expenditures. But every member of the project, every participant of Neuro Novosti, Neuro News, and 4 people, and our blog 2 people that we started some years ago. So we never thought about monetizing it. So we thought about news when people were looking for our writers, our authors, not translated ones, but our authors. So, and once we got a call, once we got a call or a request that people wanted to have a book written on our blog. Well, and we decided why not? Yeah, just it was not about money. Well, I haven't spoken about money yet. Well, you haven't. 150 million, 70 million, you have. Yeah. So, but the book market is growing in Russia. One book that was edited a year ago, together with another book. This book market is growing. So both our books became the leaders, the sales leaders, with the circulation of 10,000. And I could say that for a Russian book, this circulation is rather high. Yeah. And that's not the most important thing. Together with it, Neuro Novosti have about 55,000 subscribers. And it is important to analyze what kind of audience we do have. So these are leaders of Russian medicine, ordinary people and leaders, prominent people in Russian medicine. And every year we have about 20, 30 visits a year. So just let's talk together. Let's talk after that, because every time when I hear about conversion of 20, 30%, I think that it's worth doing. So we make 2 cruises, Moscow, St. Petersburg, or 2 trips to Switzerland. So, but at the same time, everyone has got their own work, and sometimes not a single work. And that is the monetization that we go through, and we like it. And each of our project has got becomes very important socially, has a social significance. So I'm a researcher in my background, as many research journalists. Some time ago, I came back to the science, to research, and it was a little bit unexpected for me myself. Because I was addressed by some researchers, and the researchers addressed to me and said that they were publishing quite a serious work on neurology, and they asked me to write a chapter in the book, a chapter on the history of neurology. So, and it means that, I took the job, and it means that now I have got quite a serious publication in a scientific book. Yeah. So, but how do you make money? I make money on my blog. Yeah, just sometimes we have got partner programs, joint programs, and everybody knows about this partnership. Well, just what are the other fashionable words? Well, quite recently, I also lived through a very curious story. So we were invited to a project for a TV channel, Science 2.0, and I just think about how to translate it into the language of letters, from the language of video. Yeah, but I would say that your results are really cool. 20% of conversion, 20% conversion. Well, are quite cool. And well, just when I see video blogs with such indicators, it's, well, just a dream. Yeah, because video blogs convert much worse. It's not 1%. It's sometimes even lower than 1%. So then, yeah, just my congratulations. I think that it's just a matter of time, or the time. The time is right, and it is much more important when it comes to the quality of content. Well, and to continue speaking about the quality of content, I would like to introduce Marina Sobepanik, the blogger, the representative of the Russian TV, a person who created lots of scripts for Russian scientific films. So, Marina, can you tell us about the content, whether it is necessary to protect the content? So the lady took her seat.
Yes, of course, any content has to be protected, but I was not going to speak about content, not about money. I am from a parallel reality, so to say. I am all about reputation. So I've been writing books and scenarios for 25 years, for more than 20 years. And we always thought that, well, stealing is okay. Because that means that more people will read my books. It doesn't matter that the text, the content has been stolen from me. I was very happy, but the situation has changed, and 2 years ago I found myself in the middle of a rather strange story. So, you know, on the internet, everything belongs to everybody. And when the text couple of chapters from my book were stolen and placed on one web page under another name. And when my text is stolen under my name and placed on a platform that I would not have used even for $1 million, then it's a blow to my reputation as a popularizer of science. And I started protesting quite actively. I said, please delete my text from your website. And they said, no, we didn't do anything right because we have your name and everything is okay. But I said, I don't want my text to be next to a text about a flat earth, virtually, a story about a flat earth that is not round. And this is not a stealing or a breach of my intellectual property rights. This is a hard blow to my reputation, and I did not like it. So what do you mean, a blow to your reputation? In whose eyes? In the eyes of professional community, in the eyes of my colleagues, research consultants that I work with, I have been working with for years. But why would these experts visit this suspicious website? But internet is a public space, you know, and if you go there, you have to meet all the risks associated with your life in this open medium. And if you do it, then you have to accept it. Especially bearing in mind the fact that they refer to you as the author of the text. But I share your concerns, your text next to a story about a flat Earth. But if you work with experts and you can actually warn them that you can warn them and you can refer them to another more respected portal or more respected website. And your colleagues, international community, would go to the site you refer them to. But maybe you should not pay your attention, so much attention to this situation. You know, this is a new situation for me. I simply don't know how to react. I'm at a loss at the moment. You know, Monica Bellucci is a famous actress, and I buy her picture for instance, from a shop, and I use her picture in my magazine, and the ranking just goes up because I used it, say, in a ranking of popular media people. Olga Buzova ranks first, and Monica Bellucci ranks 10 in my ranking. And Monica Bellucci probably would ask me some questions. Why did you take my photograph, and how respected is your journal? Monica Bellucci is a public figure. It's a different story. It's a completely different story. It's a completely different story.
В публичном пространстве.
So content, if it is published in a public space, then it doesn't mean that the content is public. So my name is Karina, and I am a lawyer, and I work as a consultant to a digital media company. And I want to comment to what I heard during this panel discussion, to what Jean said. We have critical reviews and we have simple reviews. Quotation is allowed, but to a certain extent. And I don't think that the story that we heard from you was an illegal use of content. I will contradict you. I disagree with what you say. And then what I heard from another speaker, you know that there is such a notion as synchronization, the right to synchronization, the inclusion of one content into another content. So synchronization gives the right to the right owner, gives the right to the producer of intellectual content to withdraw the content that he produced and to prevent it from being placed in another resource that he does not like to be used. So when we speak about formats is a good story. Formats are to be protected, and a court of appeal in Russia issued a decision when one media referred to the IP court in Russia. They could not protect their own format because they treated it as an object of intellectual property, and at that moment ideas were not protected. And apart from the intellectual property rights owners, another provision of another law should have been used then. That's why they failed in court. Well, I want to contradict you. I want to contradict from what you. So monetization issue. We can, well, I will contradict to you anyway. We can speak about intellectual property rights forever, but I'm more interested in discussing another problem. I work as a consultant with bigger agencies, including blogger agencies. How do you protect your own business when you invest money into a blogger and then the blogger leaves your company and continues his or her own blog or starts another business? And how do you protect your rights from the point of view of a company? How do you protect your rights? And then can you address your question to me too? Let's take turns. I answer first, and then you take the floor after me.
I think that we can use the same technologies and the same patterns because they are kind of standard currently. It's the producer agreement, and we sign in the person, and the person is assigned some responsibilities and some obligations, and as soon as the person leaves us, he doesn't have any. He is not allowed to conduct the same activity in the way it was conducted with us. And then when if we have the content about the gadgets, unfortunately we cannot do anything. But as the producer center, we will kind of tie up the person to ourselves with the agreements, with some requirements in the agreements. Yeah. So, but it doesn't always work with a producer agreement because we have got the right on the freedom of creativity, and you cannot, you cannot ban any person from being free and creative. And you haven't any lawsuits, right? You have never been to a court. No, I will explain. well, of course, I don't blame you, or I don't underestimate your activity, but this story about the creative activity and about the formats, well, just it doesn't work in the Russian Federation, and sometimes it doesn't work beyond the Russian Federation. You can go to the court for 3 years, but about 50% of all the TV formats that well exist in Russia are not licensed. Yeah, so, and well, just I myself did a lot of projects, or had a lot of projects, or about 12 for about 12 years. Well, I have been working for Vegetarika, for the Russian television company, for 5 years. Well, I've been there since 2005. I remember when we watched the new formats on video cassettes. Probably you don't even know what they are. Well, yeah, I know what they are, and probably I'm not the best person to argue about that. But yeah, so but when you say that such a high percentage of TV formats are not certified or are not licensed. So just it's not true. It's not true. It's just, well, some kind of unsustained blame. Well, I wouldn't name any names, and I think that it will stay here with us. But I would say that Russian television company, well, so I have been working for the television for 12 years, and very often I was the person to whom creative directors addressed. And when they said that we wanted to have the same, but we wouldn't like to be sued for the license, then I was the person who rewrote the format and who made it 20–30% different. And we replaced 20–30% of content, or we just modified 20–30% of content, and it means that we have got some new channel, new result, or new format, new result. But well, just it's about well. About how it works in TV, in our TV, because of course you can attach the person to yourself with all the necessary agreements, but you won't go very far unless you accept the rules of game. Well, but I would say that if you want to start an international format, you can replace or modify 20–30%, and it will work. But now the television sees a different practice, that it's more profitable, well, it's easier for the TV channel to buy a format rather than do something else, because the Russian TV market is being integrated into the global format. Slowly but gradually. So we sold some content to Chinese market, and that's absolutely okay, because Chinese market is very receptive for the Russian product, and it's a huge market, and they like Russian content. So just it's very it's kind of the cooperation which benefits us all. Yeah, so but it's win-win cooperation. But when and it's kind of okay for the Russian TV practice. The same can be applied to the bloggers market. And when we created the bloggers contracts for Karamba TV, nobody knew about them, and we developed several types of contracts with different conditions. But nevertheless, I can say that when it comes to Russian TV channels which cooperate with foreign TV channels in terms of formats, the best agreement is the quality cooperation. When you follow the balance principle. When you give the same, when you return the same in financial content, in financial equivalent to the blogger or to your partner, but when it comes to the agreement with the bloggers, There are about 10 possible scenarios how you can protect your content rights. So just you can go to the court, you can have some claims, and you can strike the content, and you can go to the court. But at the same time, the bloggers can be suitable, or just can you can make an agreement with the blogger, and they can be the people who are interested in being comfortable. Yeah, just it's easier to agree with them. A question: 100, 500. Is it your format or Max's format? Is it your format or the foreign format? Well, it's actually the format of foreign format, which was developed by Johnson, and we modified it, and now the original format is not produced any longer. So, and we have modified it so much that we can actually call it ours. Yeah, so, and well, just we applied some other formats in the TV, and the programs were quite successful, but we have never bothered to think about the protection of these formats, because how did you sell it? Karamba TV? Well, quite well, and I would even add, I can give the floor to Katya Kulagina, who is also here in the audience, who can tell you how successful it was. I think that all the channels which followed the blogger channels, all the channels still belong to the bloggers. All the channels which were produced by the bloggers still belong to the bloggers. Just if you start building some human relationship with people who you cooperate with, so just you will have the same good relationship. Everything that belongs to bloggers still belongs to bloggers. So we sold everything. We sold trademarks, we sold content. And what did the bloggers get? Well, what did the bloggers get from your from this transaction? Well, somebody got the money, somebody got the freedom. Well, then the managerial team of STS Media was to decide what they wanted. We didn't have any slavery relationship with bloggers. It's the kind of balance principle. If you work with the equals, so but you are a producer, but you are equal to a blogger, and so it means that you don't have any right to develop some slavery relationship. So you have to provide certain level of comfort to the person that who you work with. Well, every time when the blogger comes from the advertising agency, so they say that you have to give 80% of what the blogger makes to us. But why? Why should I? So it's better to have my personal face-to-face relations with the blogger. So you have to be just an adequate person, sensible person, and you just the only thing to do is not to cheat.
My question is Dmitry Belinsky. We will speak about science. Dmitry Pobedinsky. So do you have any problems with formats? Have you ever had any reputation blows? Has your content ever been stolen? So, or do you think that stealing content is good because it means that it is distributed? So, are you asking me about research and science? Yes, of course. Ideas are borrowed, to put it mildly, and sometimes it's very difficult to protect ideas, to protect scientific ideas, and ideas are distributed. And I'm just thinking what examples I can give to you to illustrate it. Maybe paintings from the epoch of Enlightenment, or probably stealing Show Must Go On music, or some other stuff. Well, there were ideas have always been borrowed. Ideas are there in the air, and I don't call these people competitors or rivals, but we also sort of look around, look for attractive ideas, digest them, and interpret them in our own way. And I don't think that this is piracy. And bloggers do the same. So they look for an idea and they digest this idea, and of course they produce another product. But in our segment, in our sector, I don't think that there is piracy. Even though, as I said, we borrow ideas from each other, but we do it correctly. And well, when it comes to researchers, I think you're all friends. I have this very strong impression. Well, in the research world, reputation question is perceived in a different way. If you make a mistake, if you make a blow to your own reputation, then this is the worst mistake you can make. You know, YouTube is a special environment, and YouTube optimizes content in a very specific way, and different videos can follow each other in a random succession. For instance, there can be a video on about a flat Earth, and then a parody on one of our historians, Edward Radzinski. So videos follow each other in a random order. And so what? And a complete trash may be followed by a serious piece of work. And do we have to consider it as a reputation blow? You know, bloggers are all friends, and we are not enemies, we are not rivals. This is healthy competition, and it leads to evolution. So yes, we look for attractive ideas, we modify them, we digest them and present in different format. You know, there's very little left to what I can say, and the ideas that I would like to share with this audience. And I want to support all the speakers, but when it comes to piracy sometimes is a good thing, you know. In Divico, we often do some musical parodies. Sorry, just a few words about Andrei. So Andrei has his own music channel, and his music channel specializes in parodies. For instance, Griby, mushrooms, band produced a hit, and we gathered together, and we sort of played this music and made a sketch on it. And owing to what we did, the snow is melting, the ice is melting, this band has become more popular due to us, due to what we did, due to following our parody. So good the parody was. Were you paid? No, we were very happy to have 9 million viewers. 9 million viewers, and well, 9 million viewers is you know, it's an achievement. Really, it's an achievement even today, not only some years ago. And I talked to this band, and I talked to the musicians, and you know, the song was not stolen. The parody was made on a song, but it was a win-win situation because the band became popular and you got 9 million viewers, which is good. So, but how about if we look at this situation from the intellectual property rights? You did steal the song. Are you going to take this matter to court? Well, no, of course not. But with YouTube, there's one problem, and the colleagues sitting here, they can agree that YouTube sometimes plays a practical joke with content producers, because sometimes channels or whoever invite, for instance, Dut invited Tair to work for him, and he did not negotiate the content with Tahir, and Tahir has the right to refuse from presenting this content for Dut. We understand Dut is a flagship of our bloggers, but Tahir can say no to him. And this scheme works when the presenter refuses to present the content, and Dut has to then Dut will have to explain why Tahir refused to present the content given to him. And I know that I don't know how to protect the rights of presenters and how to protect the content producers' rights on YouTube. Well, maybe it's a bad example. I don't know. So when we speak about strikes, the so-called no strikes. So let's say there is popular content which is very trendy, very popular, and it has good perspectives for monetization. And then a person using his own website sort of fakes the date of placing the info and uploads the same content. And I'm speaking about YouTube. Is it possible to fake the dates of uploading? Yes, one can fake the date of uploading to an external resource, and it does a bad thing for the channel, for the platform. And there is a need to protect ourselves from pirates, and there are tools how it can be done. And the simpler the content, the less. We never know which content can become really popular on YouTube. And sometimes when content producers place some kind of simple format on YouTube, they don't think that it is necessary to protect it. But then all of a sudden, the simple content overnight becomes incredibly popular. And then there is a need to protect it. But content producers did not think it in the first place, from the very beginning. So what I'm driving at is that we have to protect it, we have to license it, and we have to protect ourselves from counterfeit videos and stolen video contents on pirate platforms. And so what do I have to do? So does it mean that I have to? When I start a business, do you think that I have to start thinking about hiring lawyers? This will be one of my expenditures. I have to hire a lawyer.
So if we speak about some 2,000 for one video, probably it doesn't make much sense. So I've got 2,000 rubles, and if it's about, if we speak about the 13-year girl who makes first steps in video blogging, then probably it's a huge success. And for her, 2,000 rubles is big money, but she has, but the cost of content producing is really low with her. So then, just you speak about risks. Risk can be calculated, and the issue is how much this or that producer accepts the risks and how much he is ready to put up with the risks. Yeah. So, but that comes to business mathematics, and with risk issue, somebody likes 2,000, somebody thinks about 100,000, and then you will have to calculate all the things for yourself. And the matter is whether you are ready to accept the risks or not. And with YouTube, is a self-regulating mechanism. Yeah, so just it's about many media. But the question is, who is ready to accept the risks, who is ready to pay for the risk, and who is ready to take the responsibility post factum. And that doesn't matter who we are speaking about, whether Dude or somebody else. The issue of well, just of happiness is the issue for the content producers. But when we worked with SB Records, I think that it was easier for me to find some composers who rewrote some popular tunes according to the law on the copyright, but just in a way which when they remained popular and recognizable, and so that I can use them to my own benefit. So just the issue is that I can use some things multiple times and in multiple ways, and that was my solution to the risk issue. So people take different patterns, and very often it's just the the issue of financial reason, and it's business mathematics. Yes, and if you understand what you can that you can protect yourself having paid something to cover the risks, then it's okay. Yeah, just nobody goes out in winter wearing only underwear. Yeah, just you understand what your risk is. Yeah, or you can put or just you can understand risk in a different way.
Бренды. Вот. Нет, и я говорю о том, что если современные...
But if, it is not about protecting the modern technologies, they allow to protect it with some low transaction costs. And the risks, so we are speaking about piracy. We are speaking about the piracy and borrowing, just some kind of direct borrowing. But what if it's not the direct borrowing? What if it's on the level of idea and the ideas are not protected? The parodies are allowed by the law, by the legislation. But when we think about the direct piracy and the strikes, when you get when you get with...
Собственно, русский офис YouTube идет же примерно к тому же, к чему идет и американский офис.
Just the cases of piracy when you get with some ill-intended users. Yeah, so we have been speaking about this for about 8 years, but the monetization is still growing, and you know that bookmakers and online casinos were shut down some time ago, and it was quite a curious way how they were shut down when the American office closed down some of the companies, some of the bookmaker companies. The Russian officers got really excited, and they actually thought about taking some opposite actions. Well, we have got a number of claims from different companies which advertise for everything, like biddings and some food additives, whatever. Yeah, but we say no. Yeah, so they can suggest whatever money they can, but we always say no, because we are not ready to accept the television economy, because television economy is absolutely different from YouTube economy. And then once we had a story when we did the Karamba project, we said that we do not make any commercials on any gambling activities. Yeah, so once we had a story just once we had a story about something, but we just announced that we never commercialize gambling. So, and we have never done that. Well, I would like to give the floor to Jean Procyan, who is the chief editor of Cinema Theater, development director of Mir Tesin Kino, with his own view on this point. Well, actually, I have quite confused feelings because just I'm a little bit lost in the discussion on, well, just where we have to proceed from. The striving to start from some original point is the matter of speed. The second thing is, well, I don't answer your question, sorry. I really, I really feel sorry for this 13-year-old girl who cannot make much profit of her 2,000, or who cannot get her 2,000. So, but then we understand that sometimes YouTube environment is not only for these 13-year-old children, or monetization is not about them. So because we have to think what kind of resources we have, what kind of resources are available, and then we have to understand where we are moving to in the future. As for the monetization, I'm in two minds. Yeah, so, and I am the representative of the television company, or, well, just the, we participated in several festivals, and we understand that the future belongs to web series, and every blogger has got his own background, and he can, well, just he can he can make his blogs well, behaving rather indecently, but the video series or internet series will never do that. So that means that the future belongs to web series, and then at the same time the integration of web series is more native. And when we make the web series with some celebrities, now we are making a web series about the world of future and about some of the banks which exist in future. And well, just the series is about some future situation when only one bank has left and one bank exists, and just we are well, just doing something about that. But Kinopoisk doesn't like well, Russian cinema that much.
Вот. Мы, наверное, зарабатываем прежде всего на фан-сервисе, да?
So, but we are working with fan service, and when a person watches a series on TV, so he doesn't recognize one of the actresses, and he asks who this actress is. And then just when I watch when I am in the same situation when I watch some series on the first channel, and I do not recognize the people because I work with absolutely different people who come to us to make the series, web series, and who think more about monetization. But I really suffer from a question. I had some issues with BD group, and I'm popularizing our content. The content. Yeah. I'm popularizing their content, and I get the request from them, or I get the trailer from them, which I upload. And then after a day, I get a request from another company for uploading their content. So just what do I have to do? So there are some commercial videos, and there are some trailer videos. Yeah. So, but somebody wants to place his own trailer, his own commercial video with a trailer. So it means that, well, just the person wants to have the advertisement on advertisement, the commercial on the commercial. Just what can we do here? So, but if we are very flexible, like YouTube bloggers, then the model which is suggested by us now, and which is announced by us now in the market, says, let's take a different route from banning. So let's open some of the content. Just let's announce and upload some content in the open access, so that anybody can reach it. So that it can promote the advertising model, and well, just because the content will be free access, but the content with the limited access will be distributed only by subscription. So just you can have some open access, but some short version for the open access. But if you want to watch the full version, you have to pay. So you don't have to go to some other website. You don't have to address some other sources. But you have to understand what kind of scenario you can take or what kind of route you have to take to get the access to the quality product, to the quality content. So the final content is of such a high quality that people are ready to pay for YouTube subscription just to get the access and to watch it on big screen with good quality, with good special effects, but not with some fuzzy view.
Я, с вашего
So I would like to give the floor to Igor Namakonov, most creative agency. So the holder of the first in Russia Golden Lion Prize. Interpreters cannot hear the speaker.
Он тогда обозначил, что социальные сети, профиль в социальных сетях может являться объектом охраняемым, да, так или иначе. При этом мы понимаем, что это возможность зарабатывать для блогеров больше. При этом другая сторона, блогерская, считает, что это может и ограничивать, да, вообще развитие интернета как такового. Расскажите.
Мое мнение на этот счет.
So are you asking my opinion? So I feel a responsibility on my shoulders because I'm the last speaker, and I learned that I would take part in this quorum only a couple of days ago, and I thought that the session is over, and now all of a sudden you give the floor to me quite unexpectedly. But I'm happy that I have a chance to speak today, and your question is a very important question that requires a lengthy answer. And I am the person who created my own brand, and I work in education, I worked in advertising, and of course there are lots of problems with the copyrights, and during probably 18 years we have lived through different stages of the development of our market, and now we are becoming more and more active, transforming the existing markets of video content, and we are more active. We want to be heard. We want our opinion to be. We want to share our opinion with a wider audience, and very often we manage even to find funding for our projects. And very often I get the money when somebody read about me or read something that was stolen from me, and then illegally, and then I have some funding. So the reputation and a good name, that's what we should strive for. Authority, reputation that cannot be stolen from us. And I think the internet is a special medium, a medium of authority and reputation. And when I was listening to a lawyer speaking here, one of the speakers, and I remember a story when a deodorant was we asked to promote, to advertise a deodorant, and we offered so to say a solution to the problem. We hired a secret customer and sent the secret customer to a supermarket, and he approached heads of departments or cashiers asking for this deodorant. And after many trials, these cashiers decided to sort of order this deodorants, and maybe we should actually use all tools and apply it to the new media. Maybe I'm speaking a bit metaphorical, but this is how I see it. So what we're discussing, we're discussing the context we live in, the medium we live in, and I'm very happy that we have an opportunity to discuss this constantly changing context. And what I like about meetings like this is about all we do is about evolution, the appearance of new talented people on the net, and I am happy and lucky to witness this rapid change, the appearance of new names, the appearance of new authorities, people with reputation, and of course, from my point of view, the kind of content that these people produce on the net should be protected legally. And we need a new legislation, new type of legislation. New media, new rules, new legislation. You're absolutely right. And it concerns not only video content, it concerns many other things, because the audience, our viewers, spectators decide whether you are right or wrong. And if you stole somebody's ideas, really stole, then you lose your reputation immediately. And it can be seen on YouTube and on other platforms, and your image, your brand will suffer. And there are other stories, especially in the Russian internet, when producers of content actually borrow somebody else's ideas and then made the necessary 30% content change and produce something, it under another name without even buying a license. And very often these people are even thanked for borrowing these ideas and modifying it because the producers of content interpret it as a distribution of the ideas. We spoke about the quality of content. We spoke about reputations of content producers. But have you heard about the problem of profile copying? Of course, you can say something or you can keep silence. No, I'm not sort of. I have heard about it, but I have nothing against it. So how can the profile be developed further? If I'm copied, then there are good things to copy. And before this session, we spoke about architecture, how architects can produce their ideas. And my colleague, Dmitry Karpov, told me, you make those who copy you pay one way or another. And I will think about his ideas. And the story of copyright and intellectual property rights is in contrast with the concept of hype, because hype means a broader spectrum of ideas, modification of these ideas. And what do we do with parodies that become popular all of a sudden and promote the origin pieces of music that the parody is based on? And now I would like to give the floor to Martin for the assessment and of our discussion and conclusions. And I hope all of us will start thinking high of our intellectual property and the rights of our intellectual property rights. We generate our ideas. These ideas can be turned into videos or bloggers or a good picture that we make on our phone. All of a sudden, this picture, we place it on the internet, and this photograph appears in the album somewhere in Latvia. It can be so popularization is an important issue, and I think that we have to differentiate popularization from piracy. So maybe we have to refer this question not only to Martin, but also to lawyers.
I did enjoy the discussion very much. There's a lot of things going on here in Russia and with bloggers and video bloggers and so forth. Free perspective from an outsider, a non-Russian. Try to look at, this is a discussion about markets. What defines a market? A market is defined by several players, but how do they interoperate? Try to look at some of the most successful markets in the world, but also some of the most regulated markets in the world. One of them being Hollywood. Highly, highly regulated, because you wrote 2 lines for a movie, you get payment for those 2 lines. It's just one speak from an actress. It takes 20 seconds, you get paid for that. Hollywood is very regulated. Silicon Valley, it's another one. We think it's the Wild West. It's not. It's highly regulated. The third one is Korea. I've done a lot of work out of Korea. Have you heard about the Hallyu, the Korean wave? Korean music, Korean video, Korean games, Korean cosmetics, which is all based on Korean popular culture. All the actresses and the actors, the boy bands, the girl bands, are actually owned by agencies. And the Korean government are spending around $500 million on popular content. They have a ministry of popular culture. Why? Because they know if they're going to groom the right talent, if they're going to give them the right background, they're going to rise and not only work in Korea, but actually going to export. Because this has been a very kind of Russian discussion. Think about the market outside. That leads me to the next point. So first of all, markets, I think it will get, look at the rest of the world, it's getting regulated. You look at the EU, you look at US itself, it's going to get regulated. Why? Not for punishment, but actually to grow the pie. Because the market will get richer. That's why all these markets that I talked about have been regulated. Point number 1. Point number 2, will people eventually be willing to pay for it? The internet is Wild West everywhere. Nobody pays for nothing. But that's how it's a first year, it's a first phase. The next phase, I would argue, is going to be much more payment. A very good example, where can you get your news today? You can go to any Russian news site, you can go to the BBC, you can go to New York Times, and hey, wait a minute. You cannot go to New York Times. You could 3 years ago, you cannot today. You get that little snippet that you said, and the 80% deep content, you pay for it. Are people willing to pay for it? Yes, they are. Why are they? Because there are another 2,000 news sites. Yeah, but they're not New York Times. They're not the BBC. They are not the main news holders in Russia or anywhere else in the world. So will people eventually be willing to pay for content, for ideas, for entertainment? I think they will. And the third thing, to protection. Think about blockchain. What is blockchain simply? What's the simplest form of blockchain? That's a handshake. Blockchain is all about, blockchain is actually a very simple technology. But you have to have a deep understanding what's going on. It's all about handshakes. So eventually technology based on a bigger market, based on people willing to pay, but who were the person behind it? Where does it originate from? Who owns it? Maybe blockchain, and whatever technology, blockchain might even be the first-tier technology. What comes after blockchain? That might be able to protect our ideas, our platforms, our voices, our sounds, our appearances, and all that. So free perspective. First of all, grow the market. Regulation is not necessarily bad because it's going to grow the pie. 2, are people willing to pay for it? Try to look at the world out there. News, entertainment, authorities, whatever it is, people start to pay for it. They didn't 5 years ago, they do now. And 3, the blockchain technology, which I think is going to be an incredible enabler for authentication and authorization. So something to think about. Thank you.
Коллеги, всем
Thanks a lot to everyone, all the participants. Thank you, Martin, for your contribution and for such a great summing up, and have a good evening.